So following on from Shona's first episode where she mentioned to Brad that she wanted to run Chicago Marathon, there was talk in that episode about a big goal on the cards. I think we're going to unpack this a little bit more in detail and talk about some goal setting here. Shona, what is this goal so I'm aware of where we're going?
Yeah, Dev, it's big. So the goal is obviously Chicago, but the goal in Chicago is to then run a qualifier for Boston.
Okay.
And my young ripe age of 37 puts me at a sub 3:35 marathon. So
Okay, good.
daunting, but yeah, that's the big goal.
I think maybe before we get into the specific goals of what Shona's trying to do and just dig through some of the nitty gritties, I think this is a really good opportunity to discuss goal setting as a whole and what people should be cautious and what they should be looking for when goal setting. And Shona's given us a goal of her 3:30, 3:35 marathon that she's trying to achieve. But it's really important when you are setting your goals just to make sure that you are setting your goals for where you are right now, and then working towards what the ultimate goal is. If you jump in immediately at a pace that you think you might be working at because of where you want to be, ultimately that's when you are risking those injuries, that illness, and not being able to put the consistency together that we had spoken about in order to get to the start line of your race as a whole. PBs, what have you done? Give us a couple of times. How much running have you been doing at the moment?
Yeah, so I think we touched on that in the last video. I haven't run as well as I was running pre-depression, and so let's look at that. Those where the PBs are. My marathon PB is 3:46 that I ran in Berlin. In the build up to that marathon, I ran a 46. Sorry, I wrote it down. 46:25 10K.
46:25. So that's pointing to a 3:37 marathon. So goals definitely on the cards, and there's a capability of it. You've done it. You've been there before. You know what's needed. You're putting a couple of things in place to obviously make sure of that. So I definitely say it's possible. I'm not writing anything off. Okay. It's really a case more for me. Where are you now, though? So we've spoken. That was a couple of years ago. You were in really good condition at that time. You felt really good. You've had a couple of challenges, and obviously you've slowed down a little bit. Where are you at the moment? How much running are you doing? Have you done any sort of races? I know races have been really off the cards, but 10K time trials, 5K time trials, where are we?
No races. Yeah, so 2 years of COVID really meant no races, no hard running, very inconsistent running, just obviously through all the different challenges that we spoke about. But I'd say in the last 6 to 8 months, been somewhat more consistent. So 3 to 4 runs a week.
Okay.
No real sort of massive mileage. And again, when I say consistent, there were blocks of like 4 weeks consistency, break, 4 weeks consistency, break. So not as consistent as probably should be, but very, very slow. So I think, the closest I could probably give you is a 10K that I ran about maybe a year or 18 months ago, and it was 56 minutes, so a whole 10 minutes slower.
All right, so if we work on that sort of time, yeah, we definitely ballpark from what the goal is at Chicago. We not quite there, and that's the idea. We want to make sure that the plans going forward now is actually taking into account where you are at the moment and not what the ultimate goal is just yet. Ultimate goal needs to stay in the back of our mind, because that's what we're obviously going to try and work towards.
Yeah, so Dev, I actually worked it out, and my easy and long runs will be a little bit slower, but my easy run pace is 5:45 minutes per K.
Okay. I'm actually going to interrupt you and stop you right there. I know how competitive you are, and I know I've run with you enough where I'm often having to go, hey, calm down, rein it in a little bit. Just doing that calculation quickly on where you are currently and the times that you have given me. We're looking here right now, you should be hovering closer to a 6:30 minutes per K for your easy runs. That's where you are at the moment. And I know it becomes quite frustrating because I know where I was, I know what I'm trying to achieve, and I'm not there yet. We've spoken about that consistency, wanting to get you there. Those times will come down. Don't worry about that. If we put everything in the right place, those times will definitely start to come down. But for you, for example, we talk about those easy zones, those aerobic zones, and getting the most aerobic physiological benefit from your easy training runs, you can get an idea of what it's going to be. If I tell you should be running at a 6:30 and suddenly you want to dive into a 5:45 pace, you know that's not going to be easy. You and I are not going to be able to have a conversation on any of our runs. Probably a good thing, because you won't be chasing me up the whole time. But yeah, that's the biggest thing, is I really do want to just have a little faith in the process. Starting off, making sure that those easy runs, that benefit, the more efficient you become, once that strength training really starts to take its toll, I can tell you those paces are going to improve. So rein it in a little bit and just have faith in the process, really.
Yep, train for where I am now.
Exactly.
Not where I want to be.
So for now, the bit of inconsistency that you have had, my recommendation is to obviously try and build that volume up. I don't want to necessarily look to get you onto that marathon plan immediately. We've got time to work. We want to put those blocks together, and we want to get that consistency first. Based on your 10K that you ran last year, we're looking at about a 2 hour 2:10 half marathon time at the moment, and that's probably going to be a good place to start. Races coming up, anything that you have got on the cards immediately or in the short term that we need to be aware of, we need to consider?
Things are a little bit up and down, so in terms of goal races, there's not a lot of sort of steadfast concrete plans in place. I think starting towards a 10K or a half marathon is probably the way to go.
So that's the thing. I think, you and I have been running together a little bit as well. So knowing sort of the running that you are doing, I am going to be relatively confident in the fact that a half marathon plan is on the cards. It's definitely, from a volume point of view, I definitely think we can get you there, and we can be building towards that first. If we can get that volume up, there's plenty of volume in that training. If we can get that working quite well, that in itself is going to start getting that consistency with the strength training, getting those times down, and then looking later on to then bump on possibly even a shorter distance again, maybe work on some pace a little bit, seeing how you go, and then working up towards that marathon goal. So my recommendation now, and I do think we need to just make sure we get your structure in the week right and see what also works. There is a chance that we might need to sort of cut one of the runs out, seeing on how you're going with that volume, adding a little bit of cross training in. I know you're a fan of jumping on a bike from time to time as well, which makes me really happy. So yeah, I do think we can maybe look at getting a bit of cross training in with that. The strength training component is obviously going to be quite key. Yeah. Just really trying to find that groove again, finding that consistency, and making sure, one, we obviously don't want you getting injured. We don't want you getting sick. And if we can get you through one program, building onto the next program, you're going to be in a really good sort of place to then really kick that training off towards that marathon a little bit later in the year once we get there.
Great. So you saw the conversation with Dev and I and setting some goals for my big goals at the end of the year. But some of the things that maybe to take out of that conversation for you to set some goals and some really good goal management is firstly, make sure you're setting a realistic goal. At the moment, this might not feel realistic for me, but according to some of my PBs, it is realistic. So set realistic goals, because if you set goals that are way too far out of your reach, that's just going to be disheartening. Number two is train for where you are currently, not for where you want to be. You want to be sure that you're building up and progressing nice and slowly so that you're avoiding injury, but always training for where you are. And the third thing I'd say is try and build consistency. Take it day by day. Don't look at this. If I look at what I'm doing at the end of the year, it's very overwhelming. Take it day by day, turn the blocks green, and just build that consistency over time. Those three things will really, really help you in managing your goals and setting really, really good goals.
So if you want to follow Shona's journey and see how she progresses to Chicago Marathon, and she's just let us know Boston on the cards, a whole nother series of videos to come, please do subscribe, hit like, and follow her journey to Chicago. There's a lot of info still to come.